Thank you very much for joining us here at the India Today Conclave. Now, there was a time in the 80s when South India was pretty much seen as an unknown land, and growing up in North India, in Delhi at that point in time, I remember anyone south was referred to as the Madrasi, and Madrasi was generally was the group of people coming from the geographical patch south of Nagpur. And Nagpur, I'm not saying in the context that it's talked about today. Again, sometime in the 80s, we had Kamal Haasan coming to Bollywood, to North Indian Hindi cinema with Ek Duje Ke Liye. And I remember those days, oh, Apdiya was the way North Indian boys would tease South Indian girls, or at least to impress them that they know Tamil. Today, obviously, 4 decades later, it's not really the case. The South is seen as a powerhouse of talent, of learning, of opportunities, and obviously there is far more integration with the rest of India. So today we are going to talk with our 3 panelists on the Southern success. Some say that it's a bit of a cliche, and you are free to agree or disagree with me whether the Southern success, talking about the talent pool, is a bit of a cliche. So I'll begin by asking you, what is really the South all about? Is it IT? Is it BT, the area that you come from, Pharma? Is it Rajnikant? Is it Bahubali? Or is it a Ashwin or a Sindhu? How do you define, how do you talk about Southern success? We'll start with you, sir.
Yeah, I think it's IT, it's BT, it's beauty, it's also diversity. In the sense, sheer diversity of human resources is what I would say, to take off on the Pramod Mahajan's famous statement of what the government never interferes, because of which they all happened right. He said famously, IT and beauty, government never intervened. That's what he said. So for us, the strength of southern side, all the 6 states, in my view, is human resources. Sometime back, CII did one study. I remember 10 years back when they had to figure out a punchline for each of the states. And, they had this God's own country for Kerala and all that. When they chose one liner for Tamil Nadu, they chose this term, the state of mind. Okay, so the entire competitive advantage of Tamil Nadu, in my view, is rooted in its human resource quality. And I don't think it's got anything to do great deal with maybe the present governments. We have had a heritage of human resources where I don't think there's any other state where you have over 1.35 crores of people in the state have their mother tongue as not Tamil. We have over 1 crores of people speaking, owning the mother tongue as Telugu. Over 20 lakhs speak Kannada. Over 15 lakhs speak Malayalam. And another 10 lakhs plus speak as their mother tongue, all kinds of assorted languages. So we have diversity as a very cornerstone of our...
Yes, there is amalgamation within South India.
Huge amount.
It's almost like the Republic of South India, if we may use it.
But yeah, nowhere else it's as strong as Tamil Nadu. You would, and say so are the people in terms of going out. Right from our 2000 years back, we used to have statements like Yadum Mure, Yavarum Kedir, which would mean all world is ours, we are its people kind of a stances, which happened in a poetry 2000 years back.
Now, sir, since you also hold the education portfolio, now again, going back to say 30, 40 years ago,
right,
the impression about the South was this is the land of capitation fee colleges. A whole lot of people used to come here. Even now you have a large number of engineering and medical colleges. Yeah. The question mark is about the kind of quality of education that is given here. There are n number of graduates, engineering graduates, who do not find a job. And there are enough number of cases like that. Is that a matter of concern?
See, Tamil Nadu initially had the legacy of the great Kamaraj, who, while the whole of India had hardly 10% access to education, school education, he could move in Tamil Nadu to 60%. There was a day he will never sleep if he doesn't open 2 schools. He opened in these 9 years over 9,000 schools in Tamil Nadu. Today we have 58,000 schools. And believe me, that was the time he used to fall at everybody's feet, communities, different communities. You build the building, I will give the teachers' salaries. That's how this concoction called aided schools happened at that point in time. Today, if Tamil Nadu really stole a march in human resource development, it is because of his very prescient schemes like the midday meal scheme, which of course MGR deepened and broadened and widened to cover everybody.
Commendable. School education, fine. Mr. Krishnayal, I'll bring you here. Do you find the talent that comes out of the engineering colleges, the medical colleges, the technical, the polytechnic institutes, good enough for you to absorb them at Bharat Biotech, for instance?
It's an extremely important question. I don't want to argue with the Honorable Minister, but we
You're
are all
free to, you can.
I'm not agreeing because the school that is coming out of that is not right candidates for us. For the industry, I have a two angle. One, can we create a human resource for the innovation point of view? Can we create a human resource for the good job purpose? Or can we create a good, educated people being in a good entrepreneurs? All three, I think we are not well connected in that way. You look at two CEOs who are from South India, top companies, but they have to get it only after going to US, not from India. So there's something our education system is not connected to the realities of the world.
Okay.
I'll give one simple example. I always tell for an entrepreneur, if you're somebody who makes idli, you hire a catering technology, he gives you a good degree, paper degree. Will you hire him, and he doesn't know how to make a good idli. Will you hire him? You can't. So if he knows how to make a good idli and a good degree, even if the ITC Chola sacks him also, you will go and set up an opposite one shop of idli shop, make a wonderful idli and still survive. You're good an entrepreneur.
He will survive only if people don't go to Amma canteens, at least as far as Tamil Nadu is concerned. Mr. Kirloskar, do you find
And
this...
Andhra, we are replicating Tamil
Yeah, in
Nadu.
Andhra, and in fact many Anna canteens
Anna
in Andhra.
canteen.
Mr. Kirloskar, would you say what Mr. Krishnayala just said, the same problems as far as the manufacturing sector also goes? Automobile sector?
Okay, can I just refer to your first question a little earlier? Because on the skill training and education, I have certain views and I will tell them. But on, it's not BT and IT alone in South India. It's a lot of manufacturing, automotive manufacturing. A lot of my friends from automotive manufacturing are here. And we've always had that as the base before the IT business really started. I always look at these things a little bit on a historic perspective because culture doesn't come in out of 10 years and 50 years and 100 years. It's a much longer term effect. And one of the things in southern India, we've not had so much of people ruling over southern India from outside. I believe a lot of the manufacturing in India went dead with Aurangzeb. He stopped funding arts and culture. And except it didn't happen in South India. South India, the arts and culture continuously flourished. And it's very, very important. Arts and culture, literature is very important for innovation, for manufacturing and for enterprise. And I think that's really the basis of our position in South India. Why we are doing well. This is what I really, truly believe. Second thing is intellectual infrastructure. When I started Toyota Kirloskar Motor in Bangalore, one of the big issues that time was should we come here, should we go north, whatever. But the real reason we finally ended up coming to the south was due to the intellectual infrastructure. You have physical infrastructure and intellectual infrastructure. And you still see Bangalore, I'm sure it's the other cities in the south as well, growing with new IT is because of the intellectual infrastructure that is sitting in place. Regarding skill training and education, my concern on engineering colleges, especially for manufacturing, is that they don't teach enough basic science. I'm a very firm believer that I want people who learn the science of engineering rather than the technology. Technology is something we have to teach. Large companies can do it. We have our own skill training centers. But small companies need help from the ITIs, etc. And we are working hard on the ITIs to improve their positioning.
There is an important point you made about the intellectual capital, and Mr. Pandeyarajan referred to the fact that a whole lot of languages are spoken. Now, for instance, when you go to a manufacturing textile hub like Tirupur, you find a large number of people actually coming from outside of Tamil Nadu. If you see the trains, they actually get off at Tirupur station. So that obviously means that the talent pool isn't really coming from a state like Tamil Nadu or say neighboring states of Kerala and Karnataka. They're probably coming from Jharkhand and other states in the northeast. Why is that happening?
Tamil Nadu has an interesting history of migration and emigration. You should also understand the fact that if there are 2.5 crores Indians outside India, Indian origin, almost 22% are Tamil origin. It's a country, it's a place, it's a state which always had immigration. There was a time from Delhi, the newspapers used to always identify typewriter as the symbol of Tamil Nadu. You know, there's so many clerks whom we used to make. The Delhi corridors used to be filled with the clerks from Tamil Nadu. So, very unfairly so. I mean, the typewriter being the symbol or whatever. But I wanted to make a point. We are always a very strong immigration state. We've always accepted migration into Tamil Nadu very, very gracefully. Today, you have in the last count at least 12 lakhs of our workers who are from other states. Of late, of course, from Northeast, we are getting a lot of them. And only we are proud of it. We are the only state who have actually gone out and done crushes and other support mechanism for the migrant laborers' children.
But is that hurting the youngster in Tamil Nadu?
So.
No,
I don't think so. Here is a state where people comfortably migrate out to overseas, to other states, and there is no hassles. And in my view, I don't think there are issues which used to happen. The parochial stances of so-and-so should not come and set up shop here kind of a thing. It never has been there historically.
Right. Now let's talk about the South Indian model and look at why other states. Let's randomly take an example, say a Gujarat. Do you think it's not able to replicate the South Indian success model, especially in areas like information technology or biotech? Is there something that South India has an advantage over states like, say, Gujarat or Rajasthan?
Can I ask two simple fundamental questions to the audience?
Please.
How many people want to sell their properties for, if your son or kid wants to start a business, how many people want to sell the property? Good. How many people want to sell the properties if children wants to go to Harvard Medical School, Harvard School? How many want to? Majority. I mean, majority. That clearly speaks South Indians in culturally, they are more knowledge driven. They don't mind selling their entire property for children's education point of view. But if my son wants to do business, I will not definitely sell my properties. So there's a cultural differences between the two angles at a parent's level. So that makes, the South is a more educational driven. And I think it will be driving further.
So you are saying that education is key. And we have two industry representatives and in fact, Mr. Pandirajan has also been a successful entrepreneur turned politician. Now, we are in Margari season. How do you think the symphony and the Jugalbandi can take place between the government and the private sector?
So, first I want to add to what Krishnaji says about the popular stereotype of Tamils not being as entrepreneurial as Gujaratis, okay, which is what the underlying question answer was really connoting to. But if you really see the Tamil entrepreneurship,
or the Telugu entrepreneurship,
or even the Kannadiga entrepreneurship in many senses, except not so much Kerala entrepreneurship.
Let's not say that.
Okay, but I'm saying, this is, if you see the clusters, industrial clusters, Tamil Nadu, for whatever reason, have been stereotyped as large industries, Ford, Hyundai, Mitsubishi kind of a thing. It's true, we are the Detroit of India, but equally important are the niche industries. How many of you even know a Rameshwaram cluster of villages which take conch shells and make 98% of the bangles owned by the Bengali women in this country? Okay, 300 crore industry, incidentally. How many people know, for instance, the Karugumani Malai, which a cluster of villages in Virudhunagar make, which feed into the Mangal Sutras of the whole country? There are small cluster of villages. Or the cluster of villages in Shivakasi which make the matches and fireworks, which all of us know exists, market share, very high market share. Mosquito nets from Karur, 90% market share in India. Okay, so I think Tamil Nadu's strength is the entrepreneurs who have been doing work at the grassroots level. Tirupur was a small village, not really anything very large. They were all community investments which happen. Entrepreneurship in Tamil Nadu, unfortunately, always is attempted to take a low profile. So they've been very unfairly given a typewriter identity in my view, while the entrepreneurship has had huge diversity in Tamil Nadu and in, of course, surely Karnataka and Andhra.
Mr. Kirloskar, when you speak about the southern success story, and obviously as Mr. Pandirajan was also talking about, a huge influx of people from outside, so there is a melting pot of cultures as it were. How has it impacted the, what I started the session with, the integration of South India with the rest of India?
See, I think in manufacturing, South India has definitely taken a lot of leadership. If I look at something called the Deming Prize, okay, which is the world's top quality prize, and very, very difficult to get. The maximum number of companies and the people who really started it, applying it, have been here in Chennai. And then it has gone to other parts of the country, and many of the winners are around here. So I think it is showing a lot of leadership, especially in quality. We've seen companies working their entire success story around very, very high quality. And again, I always believe this comes from the cultural heritage. The fact that the people here want a high quality product, they're not willing to accept compromises on anything, and that's what propels the people to skill up and get the thing going. And that's the model of South India. I think if you ask what is the model of India, South India, which is working around, is really high quality output compared to the rest of the country. And it's leading the rest of the country in high quality output.
Mr. Pandeyarajan, how inclusive, and I would request you to talk about South India in general and of course Tamil Nadu in particular, but how inclusive and diverse is this entire success story, especially talking about Dalits, talking about women? For instance, in a state like Bihar, one of the major aspirations is to get into the civil service. Do you think by contrast the aspiration here is to get into a private sector, or as you said, maybe turn an entrepreneur or go to the US?
There was a time when bureaucratic ambition used to be very deeply in Tamil Nadu. ICS, we used to have very large cross-section. Of late, there has been a lesser and lesser even number of people who are taking that role.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
In my view, it's a good thing. I don't think there's, in fact, if you see the Tamil Nadu cadre IAS officers, at least 2/3 of them must be from outside Tamil Nadu, which I think is a good thing in my view. I don't think there's any issues about it. I'd like to see a lot more of them take on private sector roles and entrepreneurship and things like that. I'm not particularly disturbed about this. But I'm disturbed about the lack of diverse choices that a school kid tends to take on. It's still, I want to be an engineer, I want to be a doctor, kind of a mindset, which we're trying to broad base a little bit. So that there are people who would say that I want to be an artist, I want to be a teacher, I want to be something else, recognizing that. One of my priorities have been this. But having said this, I think the institutions which have been built, as Vikram sir said about the industrial diversity and the industrial depth of South, especially in manufacturing, I accept fully. I think there's as much a depth in the quality of educational institutions. I think there are great institutions which have been set up here. We were struggling with issues of mass education for quite some time. And now that that is done, we have 46% gross enrollment ratio in Tamil Nadu. South put together, it must be well above the national average in terms of the GER in the higher education institutions. Now I think people are more concerned about the quality. Yes, the employability questions are real, and industry is doing something about it, government is doing something about it, skill development. The highest deployment has been happening in these 4 southern states, if you really look at.
Right.
So in my view, it's a process. Yes, we are acutely conscious of the kind of varied needs industry is asking for currently, and government jobs is only one part of the mosaic of job creation.
Right. Now, when you look at from an industry point of view, and you've been part of industry bodies, is there a temptation to look at South India first rather than probably invest in what was hitherto called the Bimaru states? Is there a temptation to say that, okay, let's invest in a Karnataka, which has the infrastructure, or in a Tamil Nadu? Andhra, okay, it's still struggling with infrastructure, or say in Hyderabad. Is there that temptation always there for any industry, irrespective of which sector you come from?
No, it's an important question. If you look at the pharma, 50% is in South India.
Yes.
Biotech, 70% is in South India. I mean, literally north and east, totally zero. Even Gujarat is also zero in biotechnology. But they may claim, but it's zero. So literally, if you go by that way, I think South India has done extremely well. And I forgot your question, I'm sorry.
So do industry bodies kind of tend to focus more and prefer?
No, see, we focus, as Vikram said, very important question. When we take a hire candidate, we're just looking at it. If you ask me truthfully, intermediate fail is as equal to PhD after 3 years in the industry. We train them so well. Okay? And we also find the intermediate fellow is retaining them in the company is much easier than a PhD. Okay, the PhD always he thinks he's too intelligent and he wants to go. But manufacturing, we want to run every day on quality product. So that is a way. But I think if you ask me, Tamil Nadu is one of the best diversified state. I want to say to the minister clearly, this is one state where the committing suicide is not there. One of the reason my hypothesis is that where the farmers are even entrepreneur. The entrepreneur will be a farmer, farmer is an entrepreneur, part-time he will be an entrepreneur, daytime he is a farmer. That's how they succeeded in Tamil Nadu. But that's not the case in other states.
I mean, Telangana and Andhra have lessons to learn.
It's totally different situation. Here, allied industries like a poultry or lathe mission, one lathe mission, Tamil Nadu small motor making mission in Coimbatore, as the minister said about making one clusters. This is a one state where inclusive growth is happening. That is really a good success model, which other states of South as well as other part of India should emulate.
Mr. Pandirajan, is there a feeling among South Indian states that probably we need to carry the burden of the other parts of India which are probably not chugging along at the same pace and growth?
Not really, in the sense I like to see...
Is there a superiority complex among South
That's
Indian
exactly the response I want to make. I don't think so, though that's another popular stereotype associated with the Madrasis. You know, the kind of slightly arrogant, since I studied in North India for a while and worked in North India, East India for quite some time. Very popular stereotype. Madrasis include all the three. Okay, all three, four states. Okay, so by and large, I think it's again an unfair stereotype which goes around, especially in North. And the guys are weak in body but arrogant in mind. It's a very popular stereotype, which I don't think is very true in my honest view. We tend to be a little more vocal in many of these forums.
South Indians need to be rebranded now.
I think so. I think the greatest need is to really reposition ourselves to be what we truly are. When I talk about the state of the mind or when God's own country happens in this place, in my view, I think there's a serious course correction needed in the collective psyche of India as to how South India is held. In my view, we are a lot more diverse than we are credited for. We are a lot more accepting than what we are credited for. We are a lot more entrepreneurial than what we are credited for.
Okay. I'll take it slightly different. Now, we have in another, 11 days, Donald Trump will be sworn in as the next president. Is there more concern in the industry in South India about what effect he will have on industries based in South India? To both of you.
I think Donald Trump will probably be better than what anyone expects.
Okay.
I studied in the eastern part of the United States and was part of this whole eastern United States or liberal culture kind of thing, which couldn't understand Donald Trump, what he was, the appeal he had. And I think he will do, he's got good advisors, he's put in a very good cabinet, people who know what they're doing. Maybe he says things which come offhand to him. He's not a diplomat, he says things. But I think overall he will do well for the US.
It takes an industrialist to admire another industrialist. Right? Mr. Krishnahalla, last word.
Actually, he's going to do a favor for India. The reason I'll tell you. Putting a barrier always brings the best in the India. That's number one. Number two, when one of the senator came to our plant, he was concerned about outsourcing to India. Then I told Senator, you don't have to be concerned about the outsourcing. India is the loser, not you. He asked me, elaborate that. I told 74 US FDA approved manufacturing plant in India. The product quality is followed by US government, US FDA standard. But the pollution, does it follow EPA guidelines of US or Indian guidelines? He said, I don't know. So they follow the pollution Indian guidelines. So therefore, pollution for India, product for you at affordable price to US. So therefore, I mean, the pressure is going to come, and I think because of that, innovation will start taking place in India.
Okay, fine. The floor is open for questions or any comments that you would want to make on what the panelists spoke. Yes, sir. You would need a mic. Can someone just quickly get a mic for him? No, I think
so the first question to the MAFA sir or State Minister. Last year the World Investors Program had come to Chennai, and can you brief us on what is the progress or follow up on that, please? Thank you.
There are about 2,42,000 crores of investment commitment which got made through about 98 projects, and each of the projects are getting tracked. Probably we are now into about 14th month of the progress chasing. I'm very thrilled to report that unlike most of the global investors meet, all the 98 projects are alive, and around 30 of them have been commissioned. Okay, that's a phenomenal achievement. We have announced it in the floor of the House. Every month there's a report which happens. Every IAS officer chases one of these projects, kind of a thing. Almost 1/3 of the investments committed have actually been actualized. Okay, there are allegations that some of these projects were already happening and we just counted it. Maybe there is even some truth in it. I would not, go beyond that, because we've actually been able to commission 1/3 of the projects, and none of the projects have been lost as yet. Okay, the varying levels of progress have been mapped. But more important than that, 217 projects out of Amma's Vision 2023 are getting tracked, are getting mapped. And out of these 98, half of them are part of this set of projects. Okay, so you will see a phenomenal movement as we march ahead to the second edition of the Global Investment Meet, which is happening in September 2017, for which we have already started the work. Mark my words, what Gujarat did after 5 editions, reaching that 5 lakh crore mark, we will achieve this year. That's what we are working towards.
Taking off from what he asked, Mr. Kirloskar, among the South Indian governments, 6 of them, what's a good thing and what's a bad thing about how they react to the industry proposals and different projects? Discounting all this GIMs and all the lofty proposals.
My experience when I got involved with Toyota 25 years ago was they put a guy in my office, Mr. Deshpande and Mr. Jayesh Patel put a guy in my office, and who was watching every telephone call I made and reporting to them so that I don't go anywhere. So that was one way they were working. And I think it's the same in all the states here. I think the governments are very proactive in encouraging industry to come in. But more than that, my other experience has been, we've been through several different political parties in the government over the last 20 years, since I've been in Bangalore. And irrespective of the political party in power, the policies have remained the same. And I think that, for me, stability is more important than anything else. And I think you find stability across most of South India in its industrial policies, economic policy, and generally most of the other policies. There's continuity and stability. I think that's very, very important for anyone to make an investment decision.
Any other questions? Yes, sir. Once, I will just get your mic.
You said there is no diversity in. You said there is no diversity in education system. This is to Pandiraj, sir. So, are you trying to implement something? What are the steps you are going to take, and by when will you implement it?
See, yourself is a symbol of diversity. Pavitra, right? What's your name?
Sagarika. Sagarika.
So you are...
How do you know her?
No, she's one of those who at 14 years wrote a book, took a year off the school system, did a book, come back to the school system, and
I
one of the youngest...
a round of applause
I
for
think
that.
You must, Tamil Nadu is working towards greater diversity, is what I said. As far as school education is concerned, one is the mass education, get everybody into schools kind of a thing. So we've got 99.9% of the kids come into the schools. Now the work is towards holding diversity as no compromise zone. We're trying to build greater class in the classrooms, whether it's Amma Science Kids or Amma Max Kids, or whether it's the 18 different kinds of schemes we give for the school children. They're all focused on getting the kids who are in schools, unleash their creativity, unleash their diversity of aspirations, which is what we are doing. That's a statement I made. Yeah.
The gentleman on the right.
So I think you partly answered my question. To take a leaf from what Mr. Krishna Ela said, and also a question to our Honorable School Education Minister. I've lived in the United States for more than 15 years, and I'm now in India for the last 4 years. And I've always looked at how at these two different systems of education. And in the United States, there's a lot of focus on fostering creativity imagination, nurturing originality, innovation. And I've looked at the Indian system of education, not because I'm an educationist, I'm basically a physician, a pediatrician, but because I have two little kids. And I've always wondered which system of education is going to really help them grow up. And one positive point about Indian system of education is that although it doesn't foster creativity, it doesn't nurture imagination, it doesn't place emphasis on innovation, I think one positive point about the Indian system of education is that it fosters rigor and discipline, hard work. And I've not seen kids in the United States cram their books and study and memorize information, sitting down and studying for hours together, 8 hours or 10 hours. But I see that a lot in India. So this is one strength that we have, and I'm so glad that...
You think it's a strength?
I think it's a strength, and I think we've got to build up on the strength. And I'm so glad that we have a school education minister now who's so dynamic and far-sighted, so well-spoken, and with an entrepreneurial background. And I just want to, find out from him what plans we have here to build on the strength and to ensure that our system of education also fosters creativity, imagination, and innovation.
As I said, we want to do it within the equity considerations in education. There are elite schools aplenty here. Even in Tamil Nadu, we do have ICSE, CBSE, all kinds of IGSE, and every stream of education is there. But we want to bring in, these 38,000 schools, which are government schools or aided schools. I want to ensure that there's a certain measure of opening for creativity and other skill building, which is what we are doing through now the new Amma Schools of Excellence that we want to attempt to create within this structure of the school system. I don't want the varam or gift of what MGR and Kamaraj has given to the state. I think they've given a robust system of education at the school education level with a set of teachers, 5,80,000 of them, spread in a certain structure. Within that, I want to bring in these innovations in education so that there's a certain equity and at the same time there's a certain class. Okay.
Right. Mr. Pandeyarajan, Mr. Kirloskar, Mr. Krishna, thanks a lot for joining us and sharing your thoughts about what is this whole Southern success story and of course a lot of the measures that you listed out in your Ministry of Education. Thanks a lot for joining us, and we will be continuing with this India Today Conclave with special focus on South India all day today as well as tomorrow. Thanks for the session. Thank you.